of our crowd favorites.
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest example I've had of Kin's gameplay was definitely his run through Masters Tour Bucharest, where he lost to Eddie in the finals. But I've got to say, he was just playing some absolutely lights-out Hearthstone for the entire time. Those very, very long, controlling matchups, which were dominating the metagame at Masters Tour Bucharest, just really felt like his forte, his bread and butter in Hearthstone. He was piloting them very, very well. It even transitioned over to last week in his top 8, where he brought a Resurrect Priest, one of the few players to do so, or at least to get through to the top 8 last week. And he was playing that, I think, very, very well. Yet again, he had a couple of really crazy matches. And with another priest up here, I'm just checking to see what the build is. It looks like he's transitioned over slightly, however, this week, showing a bit of flexibility. But as we take a look at the deck summaries, I believe, it looks like Kin has transitioned away from the Resurrect Priest to instead the Galakrond Priest that you can see here.
Right, it's one of the decks we picked out to be the most unique this week, not just because Galakrond archetype, as of last week, I suppose, was not seeing as much representation as Res Priest, but now there's an added innovation of the Moarg Artificer. Now, I've seen it in a couple of lists in APAC. I think it's the only one that made top 8 that has it, and it's just the one copy. Other lists have had 2, but I can definitely see the synergy here. If it's good with Nether Breath, it should be good with Penance.
Yeah, I think that's really the main point. Also functions very, very nicely with your Holy Nova, Breath of the Infinite, all that good stuff that is really just meant to absolutely dominate the early game against Demon Hunter in particular, but also can do a nice job of clearing up warrior boards, mid-game development from Rogue when you double up to 4 damage. It's a very nice couple of combos that the Galakrond Priest, has available. Moving on to Tyler's decks, however, we've been mainly focusing on Kin because I think to a larger extent people know Tyler a lot better. A very popular streamer. He's had a decent amount of success in the HCT system as well in the old Hearthstone competitive format. And now that he's finally made it through here to the top 8, I'm sure he's ready to put on a show for us.
For sure. And it's pretty cool to note that we've been seeing a lot of Rogue, as it is just a highly represented class in APAC. I think more so than in other regions, but I'm really happy to see that because last week it was not brought by too many people, but I think everybody kind of recognized of it and also the different variations on how to build it. So we are going to be seeing more Rogue because despite its high bring rate, it has a very low ban rate.
That's right. It was the most brought class to Asia Pacific this week at 14, one above both Warrior and Demon Hunter at 13 apiece, I believe. But like you said, it was only banned, I think, 3 times during the Swiss. Maybe I'm slightly off on that. But given that pretty much... Right, and given that almost every other ban was either Warrior or Demon Hunter, the entire spreadsheet was just red or green for both those classes' colors. Excellently color-coded, Neil. Thank you very much. It's really feels like it's just the decent, strong deck versus everything. It doesn't have any super powerful matchups, it feels like to me, or any strong counters. It really just relies on very consistent gameplay that allows you to take the win.
Yeah, Highlander Rogue or Galakrond Rogue of any sort has been in the meta for a couple of months. It's been in previous metas, and a lot of people call it one of those degenerate decks because it is very much able of scamming people. But I also think that it's definitely high skill cap in order to play perfectly because it's very punishing if you just mistime one of your high-cost finishers like Togwaggle or Galakrond himself. Suddenly your Kronks get stuck in hand or the Alexstrasza gets stuck in hand, so on and so forth.
But speaking of difficult decks to play or difficult matchups, I believe first up here for this series with Kin and Tyler is going to be a Warrior Mirror. And now me and Gia, on the day before the broadcast, we're doing a bit of practicing for the upcoming weekend, seeing what matchups we thought looked most common, most difficult. And we thought, you know what? Why don't we start off with a Warrior Mirror? It's a pretty complicated deck. We could do with a little bit of extra practice, getting to know that. 4 hours later of playing nothing but Warrior Mirrors, we were left, I think, more confused than when we started with.
Sure. I thought that we could get enough reps in after, say, 2 hours, but it turns out every single game of Warrior Mirrors is different. There are panouts when you just get the absolute nuts. You got the egg with the rampage, or you get the War Maul with the rampage and the mercenary. And some games where both players have battle rage, so you've got to play for the long game. Some panouts where neither player has battle rage, and one panout where we are even thinking if this access to fatigue. And that's the whole nature of just the risky skipper package, which has so much potential to clear boards and also stabilize health totals.
Yeah, it's a really, really complicated matchup indeed, which I think leads me to my point that when we talk about this matchup, we should use I feel statements. Imagine we're in a family therapy here, nothing accusatory, nothing is definitely right or definitely wrong. We should say, I feel you should be mulliganing the Battle Rage here, because to be honest, you may feel that way, but you're probably wrong.
I think, and I believe, and I sit on the fence, but if you don't want to, then it's all right.
Thank you, Gia, for validating my feelings.
And there it is, the Battle Rage in the opener for Kin. And we've had so many arguments amongst us about whether or not this is actually a keep. And even the Sky Raider, to some extent.
Even the Sky Raider?
Yeah. Although we can all agree that Corsair Cash is always kept, no matter what.
Yeah, agreed.
The Sky Raider, it seems, is relatively inconsequential in the mirror, because you're kind of happy when your opponent plays small things that you can then take advantage of with damaging them and getting your Blood Boil Brute cheaper, or just like a good target to swing into with the Livewire Lance, etc.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I am a little bit surprised to see Tyler keeping the Sky Raider here. I'm also kind of surprised to see Kin's keep of the Battle Rage, because what I was going to say is that mainly in this matchup, it's not about curving out quite so much as it is about setting up your most powerful turns to destroy your opponent's board with Risky Skipper, whilst also trying to bolster your own at the same time. So I think keeping the Sky Raider there, it's fine, it gets something on the board. But if I was Tyler, given that he has War Maul challenges and Kin does not, I would have preferred looking a little bit more aggressively for them, given that that is the most powerful thing you can do in the early game, in my opinion.
True enough. And even as early as turn 2, there's already some people questioning whether you should actually attack face or not because they play Battle Rage. But we all came to the same conclusion quickly that, well, they're playing weapons, they're going to damage themselves anyway. So you might as well just take that damage while it's available. And Tyler, with all the weapons in hand, I mean, that makes his second Corsair Cash useless, but maybe not too big of a deal because it guarantees that he has just stuff to do for the coming turns.
Starting off with the Ankar does make some amount of sense. He clearly wants to set up for a big Risky Skipper Blood Boil Brute turn. So I can definitely get on board with that, given that the difference between a 2-attack and a 3-attack weapon right now doesn't feel especially consequential.
I'm already seeing just deviations from what we expected of the matchup. Just laying out an Armor Smith without anything to go with it. I've hardly ever done that in the mirror, but I guess with Kin's particular hand,
yes,
I can see the reasoning, because there's no way for him to damage his own stuff, but every single card outside of the Armor Smiths and the Coin relies on him damaging stuff.
Yeah, I really, really like this play from Kin. It might go wrong and Tyler can kill it. There's a pretty good chance he could kill it if he wanted to, but if the Armor Smith is killed, it probably has to come in the form of a Risky Skipper, or maybe going for an Inner Rage just for 1 damage on the Armor Smith, which I think Kin would be okay with. That seems like a good trade for him.
There's also the War Maul Challenger. That seemed like the big one.
That's true. That's yes, I didn't think of that. Good point.
And it would give him a ton of armor, but it's not too big of a deal matchup when you have the board.
But Tyler, by attacking into the Armor Smith here, but not choosing to kill it, which again, as I said, would have been a big investment in terms of his resources, is going to get massively punished.
Yeah, look at this. Double Yetis and a 3/3 for his trouble. And if they stay alive, they are going to be contributing to a very big Battle Rage, which is another hugely important card in the matchup. Tyler, he does at least have an active Blood Boil Brute to deal with.
He can make it even cheaper, right? He could get it down to no mana on this turn. If he goes Risky Skipper plus Egg, or any cheap minion. Egg does seem ideal, though.
And with the play of 2 minions, he is then able to use a Livewire Lance to deal with one of the Armor Smiths. I think the play is to trade in the Sky Raider into the Bloodswarm.
It does make the Blood Boil cost 6 instead of 1 instead of 0.
I think that's fine. He's not really required to play any other minions here, but it does deny the Battle Rage. That's the
Battle Rage, yeah.
So maybe it is just Battle Rage first, play the Blood Boil, and leave them up with one minion.
Okay, yeah, that's worth considering.
Okay.
I mean, this is not ideal. This doesn't work out perfectly for Tyler, but I think given how big of a punishing situation he was in, it's okay.
Right, and I think correct for him to prioritize ultimately the battle rage rather than just clearing the entire board.
I agree completely.
Kin, with the battle rage on his side, gets his own blood boil, but no risky skipper.
So the play on this turn could be Rampage the Egg, trade it into the Blood Boil, which gives you a 3/4. Fairly well statted versus the current board.
But it's kind of awkward because he would then have to trade the Blood Boil into skipper, and you always try to get rid of the skipper.
This seems much better.
Yes, so I do like this. Even that's not a hard rule. I feel that you always remove the skipper, but sometimes you can leave it up because if they play a minion, it might die off anyway. Oh man.
So there's a play here of Blood Boil, trade it into the 2/3, and then copy the damaged version, of which the copy would have Rush, which could be used to take out the opposing Blood Boil. It's not bad. It does mean that the copy that you make dies in the trade, which is a bit rough. There might be something better you can do with a risky skipper on this turn.
I'm looking at some form of Terran play, but it might be a bit greedy. But honestly, in this matchup, I don't feel that you're overly protective of your health total until you feel like they have the galakrond stuff. But is it awful to just go Blood Boil, trade, and Terran?
I don't hate that, actually. I don't hate that. It's a little bit slow at the moment. It means you have to tank the damage from Blood Boil and it doesn't die. But as long as you have a way to crack open the Terran next turn, like an egg,
they would still have their Terran in most cases. Maybe you got punished by some type of taunt lackey play.
Interesting.
Maybe that's a bit too fancy. This one does just put Tyler ahead of the board.
No, actually, you know what? I think I actually preferred your line, because as the follow-up, potentially, if the Terran doesn't die, of copying the Terran itself, which means that you could then summon even more Blood Boils and eggs there afterwards. It's a little bit long-term, it's a bit greedy, but given that there's relatively low damage in this warrior deck, I think Tyler might have had the time to go for it.
It's possible. He would have ended with a 3/4 on that board from the egg at least.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that there was that was generated. The sticky figure generated. Yes. That is actually insane.
You do that every time. Every time you think it's a real pirate in the deck.
Because some people were playing it at some point. Granted, it was for the Demon Hunter matchup, but maybe it's because I got completely destroyed by it when you played it during our practice.
Ha 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 ha. So I'm definitely looking at this turn, Blood Boil value trade into Witchy Lackey, and I think Tyler's looking at the same thing, given that inner rage.
Yeah, can get behind it. Corsair's pretty good too, I guess.
He could draw first. Okay, yeah. I like this. Keep the draw rolling. He's not drawing too fast so that he dies to fatigue.
Oh. And now he's going for the turn. Okay. Seems like enough juice for sure.
Sure. Yes, this is probably actually just better. It's a little bit less tempo immediately, but given that Kin has nothing on his side of the board, it's probably worth exchanging a little bit of immediate tempo for later game value.
Look at the Deathwing. Even if Kin doesn't play anything for the Terran to just trade into, the Deathwing can pop it on his own.
That's actually pretty nuts, yeah. Tyler, by not swinging, however, does open him up to the extra 3 damage.
I mean, if you expect the sticky figure, then it opens you up. But now he's got to be worried about galakrond shenanigans. Just going for the Deathwing, probably a little bit too greedy here. So
I mean, the Armor Smith is perfect, right? It's the absolute dream draw.
And you can't call it too lucky, I suppose, because I think that's Tyler's first one that he's drawn.
Yeah.
And he's just 9 cards left in the deck, so with the risky skipper, Armor Smith, some combination of lackeys or bomb wrangler, he can definitely clear the board, pop his Terran. Maybe he doesn't clear necessarily the death rattle off the egg, but that's probably not consequential at the
Crack it open. Whoa. Disgusting.
Like another lance, maybe?
Yeah, I'm wondering if he wants to go Witchy Lackey on his Blood Boil. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just gets a whole bunch more armor.
Okay.
Insane.
Love it. Yep, I think this was, even if there were optimizations, they usually are in turns this complicated. This was more than good enough to win the game.
I'll show you who's boss.
And Kin will then respond with his own risky skipper turn, but Tyler with the additional removal from Deathwing actually lines up so well into risky skipper boards because they tend to end with just a bunch of 1 attack or 2 attack things.
And I feel like this situation, as counterintuitive as it is, maybe speaks to why Battle Rage shouldn't be kept as much as it is. Because Kin kept the Battle Rage in his starting hand, but he's ended up with significantly less card draw than Tyler. And obviously Tyler was quite fortunate to find it off the top of his deck in a timely fashion. But what he was more looking for was the synergy cards that go with it. He got the Ankar, played it as soon as possible, found the Risky Skipper, which meant when he did find the Battle Rage, he was able to draw significantly more cards.
And that just is one of the many, many panouts of the matchup. Probably more common than most, where the player who gets the better battle rage ends up just outvaluing the other.
Agreed.
It's just kind of funny how they're both at higher than starting health.
It's just the way the mirror goes. It can be pretty crazy sometimes. But now, with double inner rage for Kin, I'm racking my brains for what could pull him out of this one.
Well, if Tyler if Kin, is he out of Livewire Lances? I'm looking at Draconic Lackey into not Mad Aspect Deathwing as his out here.
What now?
Sure. That seems as good an out as any. I mean, also, to be fair, Tyler does not have that absurd of a grip on the board right now. His presence is decent at best. It's difficult for Kin to swing back, absolutely, but given the incredibly high life total he has to work with, if he can hit Corsair Cash into Livewire Alliance and just start swinging, that might be enough, maybe.
And I wonder if that was ever an argument for Tyler to maybe play the Mad Aspect earlier. There was a turn where Kin had 2 minions and Tyler had a 3/4. Of course, Tyler gets rid of his 3/4 by playing the Deathwing, but anyway, he still found a way to just generate a lot of pressure onto the board, so this works out fine as well. There's a Livewire Lance.
There it is.
Looking for, I guess, Ethereal into Brawl or Draconic into Deathwing.
Those feel like the 2 big options, really.
That's not it.
Okay, he's got another shot next turn.
Having another glance over the list, there is no Captain Greenskin, which some players are running, so he doesn't have a way to add another charge onto the Livewire Lance. Maybe try another vacuum.
He'd just be dead, I think, at that point as well. This is just too much damage.
True.
Alright, I think it's got to be Brawl.
Didn't have the
or
time.
Plague of Wrath, maybe.
Nope. That is the GG. Tyler takes the first game with Warrior, and man, Warrior just seems really, really powerful. I could also see it sweeping, but looking at Kin's other decks, maybe it would line up not too well against the Galakrond Priest.
Yes, maybe. It was a weird game there, though, wasn't it? I think that Tyler overall, like in the late game, he knew exactly what he was doing. It felt like he was just cleaning up, and I don't think he gave any big outs to Kin over the course of the game. It was really just those first 1 or 2 turns plus the mulligan that, again, I'm not even calling him wrong. I'm just saying it's interesting to think about, given how many different ways the matchup can pan out. Like, should he have kept the Sky Raider? Maybe it's just fine to get a guy on board at the start of the game and generate some value with the Pirate you get back. Should he have damaged the Armor Smith at all, because it allowed for an immediate attack with the buff on the the Rampage plus Bloodsworn? There's so many minute little differences that you can make that have really wide-reaching consequences. But I think from what I saw, overall, that seemed like a pretty high-level Warrior Mirror.
For sure. I mean, with the way they defied the very difficult Blood Boil Brute turns, that I find the most difficult part of the matchup is just the micro calculations, and you've got to do a ton of them in a very short amount of time to make sure, like, how do I fit in the most trades? How do I make sure that the Battle Rage still gets played, but my opponent doesn't have a wide enough board that they can utilize with their risky skipper? And I think Tyler and Kin both realized the best shots they had. It just turned out that Tyler's hand and his plays kind of locked out Kin from having the best Battle Rage available.
I mean, you say it's hard for them. All they have to do is come up with one correct line. I suggest like 5 bad plays every turn, all right? I'm working overtime here with my terrible casting, all right? So they've got to step it up a bit. But memes aside, that is the end of our first game here of this series between Tyler and Kin. 1-0 up to Tyler. And maybe we'll get to see now why Warrior is so consistently banned here in the Asia-Pacific region. But before we do, we're going to have to head to a quick break before we come back with the conclusion of this thrilling series. Welcome back once again to Hearthstone Grandmasters here for the Asia Pacific region. We've just finished our first match of the day between Staz and Flurry. Staz, unfortunately, taking another loss here on stream. But as I said at the time, still very impressive to be getting to the top 8 at all. And we'll get to see him fight out for his tournament life a little bit later on. But first of all, we're finding out who will be joining Flurry in the winners bracket match between Tyler and Kin that we have here. It was a pretty exciting first game, a warrior mirror. Finally, we got to see one after much practicing and much waiting for it to finally happen, with not both warriors, or at least one warrior, being banned. But now that Tyler took the win, the onus is definitely on Kin to find a decent counter, which is easier said than done, I'd say.
Definitely, but I think the win with a good shot. The warrior, as we know, has a very good time dealing with, I guess, wide but low health boards. It has a great answer for the type of threats that, say, Token Druid might put down, because they can just skipper, play the free Blood Boil Brutes, and then just clear everything. But maybe Priest presents it with a bigger problem if they're trying to deal with, say, one or two bigger threats. Granted, this is not Resurrect Priest, this is Galakrond Priest. So Kin doesn't have access to cards like, say, Convincing Infiltrator, which I think would be very effective in the matchup.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting dynamic that is struck, because I feel like if Tyler was playing the version without eggs, Kin would be a pretty significant advantage, because you can just clear all the stuff they're putting down very easily. And then one of the main win conditions that is available to the non-egg version is the OTK with Galakrond. But Tyler has some pretty strong alternative win conditions he could go for with just egg, powerful mid-game. And until you hit the one copy of Plague of Death in the late game, there's not really that many good answers to eggs on this board.
Fair enough. But Kin actually starts off keeping Thought Steal, which is not something I would necessarily expect to see, but looking at the list now, there's actually hardly any development in the early game. You definitely don't want the Moarg that early. You want Disciple of Galakrond, I guess, ideally. But outside of that and the Imprisoned Homunculus, not too much. So I guess the Thought Steal just gives him something to do on turn 2. And there's a fair few warrior cards that he would be happy to copy, like the Blood Boil Brutes, or any of the weapons except Anchor, which means just live wire lens.
Right. Yeah, I actually agree. I think if the warrior was a deck that played more minions on curve, if it was just more of a straight up curve deck, I would definitely prefer looking for Penance, Breath of the Infinite, Holy Nova, all that good stuff. But given that it's often a significantly slower deck, only starting to pop up at around turn 5, I like the thought still being kept there just for a bit of extra juice.
Now, Tyler actually chooses to coin out the Corsair Cash, probably just seeing as he has a turn 2 play. I guess, a Terran. That's interesting. I was going to say the coin cash kind of signals to Kin exactly the egg for the next turn, but it's not like there's anything you could do to stop that, so I don't mind it, Tyler.
Yeah, or I mean, I've definitely seen instances where I go coin cash into cash before just to guarantee myself Anchor on 3.
Sure.
So he could have expected that, but I'm being pedantic. I agree that the most likely play is egg.
Apotheosis, great draw for Kin there, allows him to take a value trade onto the Bomb Wrangler if he so chooses. Can even heal it back up with the Renew.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty good. I mean, this is a line I wasn't looking at. I was looking at Penance trade into the bomb, but instead here, Kin is just going for the full board development, and to be honest, it gets him a great value trade on the Bomb Wrangler, and great board holding there afterwards as well.
I kind of like it. I guess the only thing you could argue is that, we missed an attack to the face, but I guess as Priest, I mean, yes, they'll probably get the damage onto the face for the Battle Rage anyway, but I think Priest is in no rush to race down the Warrior at all. So this now presents, I guess, an awkward situation for Tyler. If Kin then chooses to buff the Terran, which I think he will, because that's just going to keep lifestealing away. And if Tyler doesn't pop it, then Kin's essentially not taking any damage. But if Tyler does pop it, well, Kin's got more board development.
I agree it's a bit rough for Tyler, but the kind of the underlying sentiment behind that statement is that time is on the side of Priest. That's who it gives advantage to the longer the game goes, which I'm not necessarily certain is true, at least for a few turns. Like, if Tyler can just keep on setting up and trying to get the biggest battle rage possible, and maybe go for a big Blood Boil, Blood Swan mercenary in the next couple of turns, I think this kind of stalemate that's working at the moment could work in his advantage.
What now?
Possibly.
Or at least
But in the
not be disastrous.
In the meantime, though, Kin's gotten a pretty good battle rage. If it draws anything more than one card for a priest, I would say that's a win. Tyler's choosing to bite the bullet as now. Granted, the Lance can of course deal with either of these easily if he so chooses, and he could go for a double egg Terran turn. Yeah,
I mean, it was arguably a misplay, I think, by Kin to play the Apotheosis first before trading, because couldn't he have traded, taken 2 draws on the Battle Rage, and then played Apotheosis? He would have taken less heal, but I think with the amount of heal in hand, it maybe would have been worth taking the extra card, as counterintuitive as it looks.
Wait, he did take 2 cards, right?
No, he healed up to full. He only drew 1.
Oh,
I think, right?
Then,
I mean, I'm trying to think back to a couple turns ago. I don't want to commit to it too hard.
But I'm not entirely sure either. I thought you were talking about ending with the minion at full health, but...
No. I mean, he definitely drew 1. I'm just not sure if he could have drawn 2. I think he could have done.
Yeah, probably could have then.
But at the sacrifice of 5 health, which again, is not necessarily wrong at all.
Okay, so Tyler can now copy the Terran if he wants to. That sounds pretty powerful to me.
So we could go value trade with one of the snakes, Inner Rage, and copy Terran.
And play Battle Rage.
And then Battle Rage.
Seems very powerful. He can even take out the Kronks if he wants to with the other snake and the Livewire Lance. Okay, so I guess this play he's holding on to Inner Rage. Unless he specifically wants... Oh,
that's so heartwarming.
The most supportive mom on the face of the planet. And I do think that she's the one that cut his hair also.
Yep, shaved his head, furnished his room. Honestly, I think Tyler might be getting a pretty good deal out of this.
You're just jealous, Derek.
Well, I mean, kind of, but that's a bit of a harsh joke there, Gia.
I didn't realize how harsh it was.
Don't worry. It was really funny.
Spending too much time around you guys. I'm now just a cold-hearted person that assumes that other mothers aren't as great.
Yeah, jeez. I'm not even gonna. I don't think I can even explain that joke on broadcast.
The Shadow Madness. All right, that can steal 2 eggs.
Blood be born again.
Not to mention
that is
insane. Tyler from getting Okay. It's insane, but somehow I still feel that Tyler is in a decent spot.
Right. This is what I was talking about earlier, where this stalemate that's been happening for the last few turns, he finally found the Battle Rage, and now, as long as he doesn't just throw his resources away into easy board clears for Kin, I think he might be able to just have enough stuff that Kin can't find the removal in time.
There's also this Sweeping Strikes, which looks very interesting to me as an option with the Blood Boil Brute, if he can somehow cheapen it enough and proc the eggs, but it looks like he's going to cash it in on this Serpent here. So he can get the Blood Boil down to 5, taking a trade with the Serpent, and then 4 with the egg into 1 egg, and then... Okay, that
well, he's trying
to... But then this doesn't let the Blood Boil attack the second half of the eggs, so...
Right, yeah.
Not
well, he can go...
sold.
Rush in, trade, 4 mana Blood Boil, Sweeping Strikes, attack into the egg, or maybe he just wants to Battle Rage instead, but then he's drawing too many cards.
I think it's...
Oh. Okay, he's overdrawing by 1, but as long as he plays something, he'll only overdraw 1 card.
Oh, it's key that... Oh, the Rampage is a big one to burn. Because
Oh, this deck is so hard, Gia.
it is...
Like, obviously that was wrong, but it's so difficult to fault Tyler because there was so much to consider.
For sure, because don't Battle Rage there, maybe you don't have it next turn. And I
Right.
think from a previous turn where Tyler held the Inner Rage when we could have seen him do a bigger Battle Rage, I think he was looking to assemble this Galakrond combo specifically. Because that's something
Yes.
that Priest can't play around too well, especially the Galakrond version with less taunts.
Okay, this is a hard choice because the correct answer here is actually Sweeping Strikes.
Yeah,
But it's the one card out of those that isn't in his starting deck.
that's insane.
Wait, does that actually mean that it was the only option? Because it only presents options that are possible, right? And so,
Oh,
since Sweeping
you're
Strikes
right.
isn't in the deck, it was the only valid option.
Yeah, because
think.
there's no way to generate a card into your deck, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Okay, that's pretty cool.
kind of funny.
And yet, that's like the 88th on the list of most difficult decisions in this game. so
Right,
far.
right. Yeah. And thankfully, it shouldn't be super impactful. But I mean, I don't know. To be fair, if you can hit like Apotheosis and Sweeping Strikes on a minion, I mean, I just want to see that. To be honest, now that I've described that, I'm kind of disappointed we're not going to get to see that.
In any case, though, Tyler is assuredly ahead on board now, relying on the eggs to give him insurance past the just first layer board clears. I'm gonna call them that. And Kin's Plague of Death is a one of now. Granted, it will be online, so maybe that's why we see Tyler popping one of his already.
Yeah.
And he's got just a lot of damage in hand. He did burn the Rampage, unfortunately for him.
Oh, I'm so sad he didn't get the Sweeping Strikes. Look how nuts that would have been
Oh
here.
my god, you're right.
Oh, Kin. Never mind. Oh well, it's still a very, very powerful play on this turn. He's able to sweep up the vast majority of the damage.
So the Galakrond Inner Rage, and Bloodsworn. Oh, that's lethal, right? Wait,
Is that lethal?
wait, 1 sec. So
How much is that?
11,
6, 8,
22?
11, 22. Lethal?
Lethal! I was even wondering if it
Oh
was lethal with
my
just the lackey,
God.
but that is assuredly lethal now. What? You hate to see it if you're a kid.
That is insane. And to be fair, well played to Tyler. You know, valuing the Inner Rages very highly over the course of the game and realizing that as long as he just keeps up even with the Priest, he's not an aggro deck. This warrior is undefinable. It just does whatever it needs to in any game. And in that particular game, trade evenly, keep up on board, don't fall too far behind. Don't get distracted by your mum watching TV in the background. And then all of a sudden, you're able to go with the Galakrond Inner Rage Lethal, which for the entirety of Hearthstone, it's combo finishes that has been Priest's biggest weakness. They just don't have the counterplay necessary in taunts, quickly killing your opponent, mana disruption, card disruption. They don't have any of that stuff that you need to be able to stop these combo decks.
And that's maybe a reason why we've been seeing Warrior get banned so much and brought so much, because it has a plan where it can kind of act as a control deck with the Risky Skipper package. It has panouts where it can act as an aggro deck if you get the Egg, Inner Rage, Rampage starts. And then it can act as an OTK deck too, apparently. So we've found just the ultimate form of Hearthstone's deck now. It's reached Nirvana, this Warrior deck.
It has apotheosized, one might say, as well. As Kin left now only with the Rogue up against the Warrior. Clearly he thought, at least we'd have to assume, that it has a worse matchup against the Warrior than the Priest does, which I think is a fair assumption to make. But now, the Highlander Galakrond Rogue. Only deck left for Kin. Taking a quick look through the list, it's not the secret variant, none of the secret synergy with Blackjack or Hanar going on. It does instead have a bit of stealth synergy in there with Spy Mistress, Skyvatir, and Greyheart Sage. But interestingly enough, no Akama.
Yeah, that is a card that I thought would be very insane when it was announced, but I've been seeing it cut from a lot of the rogue decks if they're not running the stealth package. Probably because I think people don't value the prime version very highly. Permanent stealth as a concept seems broken because your opponent just can't interact with it outside of just mass board clears and things like Deadly Shot, which are very unreliable. But maybe with the general game plan of Rogue, it's just a little bit too slow to be playing another 6 mana 6/5 when you've already got a 6 mana 5/5 in top.
Right. So already jumping into this game, quite a lot has happened already, but the first big turn for Tyler was just played with Risky Skipper coming down on 2. That is not something that you see very often, it's got to be said. And I'm not entirely... okay. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, I'm not entirely convinced that that was the play.
I was also shocked to see that because it seemed like from our mirrors, what we learned, well, the first thing we learned is to hold on to a Risky Skipper for dear life until it can actually just deal with a whole board and get you a bunch of armor, or at least a big battle rage. And Tyler had the option to go for Bomb Wrangler at that point. So maybe he's got a different take on how the matchup goes. As you said, the warrior could be aggro controller or combo even, depending on how you interpret the hands. So maybe he's actually seeing this as a bit of a faster paced matchup for the warrior side.
It's a pretty nice draw in the Warmaul, allowing you to... well, I mean, there's a full board clear this turn if Tyler wanted to go for in armor, shield slamming the 2/1, and then Warmaul to take out the mana, the Millhouse, which I wouldn't have actually hated, given that he has no more ways to generate armor. I think using the shield slam while he could there was maybe the way to go.
It would be the other way around, right? You shield Millhouse, normal the 2/1. So you shield.
Wait, he only had 1 armor.
Yeah, but he had the.
Oh, you'd sacrifice a bit more health. Okay, okay, yeah. That sounds even better. That sounds even better.
So the Kin as a choice here, that's interesting. But yeah, given that Kin's hand seems very, very short of value, Swamp Queen Hagatha is actually one of the best ones you could have gotten, I'd say.
Does Swamp Queen Hagatha, does it say discover spells or discover shaman spells?
It.
I've never seen it in another class. Teach you 2 shaman spells. Okay.
Yes.
So you're not going to be presented with Sprint or any of the high-value rogue cards.
But you have access to the high-value shaman cards. Eye of the Storm.
Drink your blood. Eat your flesh.
Even like a Farsight. That's just like a scuffed Wondrous Wand, isn't it?
So true, Gia. Wow, he got the exact 3 spells twice in a row. It was Shield Slam, Sweeping Strikes, Execute last time as well.
I know, but how does Hearthstone...
Lorinda, what are the odds of being presented the 3 same spells in Warrior twice in a row? These are the stats the people demand to know.
I've been told that I'm actually required to use the phrase "what even is Hearthstone" at least once per podcast. So I'm going to throw it out here. What even is Hearthstone? Tara?
What's the deal with Hearthstone?
Oh man, this turn is so terrible for Kin. That activates the way he wants it to. And Kin just, Tyler just gets to stick his boil. So... Oh
I mean, it's better than that. He sticks his Blood Boil, he value trades, and then he goes Terran.
Right? Oh, with the egg! Oh my goodness.
Okay, Gia, is there any consideration for not going with the egg here because of sap, and you don't want to go too all in? You just get a 3/4 though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You just play the Terran.
It's gotta be good.
Yeah.
It's gotta be good.
Because obviously the downside is, if you go Terran and they sap it, you're left with a 3/4 snake on board, but you have absolutely gutted your development onto the board. And a reason to think they have sap is that they've just gone with a couple of very weak turns, one after the other. So maybe you're expecting a more reactive play from your opponent.
Then again,
but it's so good if they don't have it.
And this is Highlander Rogue with the 1-ofs and no secret package with Black. So maybe it's caster visioning it. It still seems perfectly strong to just go for Lackey and Bomb Wrangler. Kin's just not been dealing with it, so no problem for Tyler here.
He says, you know what, this is more than good enough. He is still absolutely dominating the board, but that is the absolute premier top deck there for Kin. All of a sudden, next turn we could be looking at, I don't know, Galakrond, Kronk, Tiamat, whatever, all the way down to 0 mana. This game's on.
Yeah, it is exactly what Kin needed. Otherwise, he just would have died without having done much at all in the game. And now for Tyler, is there a way to immediately proc his Terran after playing it? You can't execute your own minions.
Are you sure about that?
I am sure, Derek. I've seen quite a few too many highlights.
Okay, so you could trade in your trade your Blood Boil Brute into the Togwaggle just to kill it, and then if you just go Egg Terran, at the very least you have 2 3/4s on board, even if they sap you. I think that's just fine.
It's true. And he can fit in the other Bomb Wrangler as well.
Right, yeah. You probably go for that after, and then even if there's the sap, you're still in a fantastic position.
They're gonna look for maybe something in the vein of Rush Lackey to immediately proc the Terran. I don't hate it, as opposed to just the guaranteed development of Bomb Wrangler. That seems like a bigger upside. It's like he's just leaving the Tog up altogether.
Alright, there's only one play on this turn. Let's see what Kin can conjure up with his wand.
Galakrond!
Whoa!
Derek!
Whoa!
That's the absolute giganuts! Even has Vendetta to deal with the resulting 3/4. For one of them.
Only draws one card, who cares? Oh! Flick for 0 mana as well!
Yeah, so he can just Galakrond and then flick away the 3/4s that come out of the... well, yeah, sure, that works too.
He may as well do this because it's dying anyway.
No, do this and then just use Vendetta save flick, right? That seems better.
Yep.
This game has absolutely turned on its head. And he's just got Alexstrasza for the next turn. We've not just got a game, Dara, we've got a series now.
He's winning all of a sudden off that one insane wand. Oh man, I feel for Tyler. That is brutal.
Okay, so what can be done now? Okay, we're looking at Lackey outs, right? We're looking for just very strong things off of Draconic Lackey. He did get the Dragon Queen, so there's also looking for Battle Rage, I suppose, to get that active. Because it's suddenly just become a value game now. All the aggro is out the window, all the early game development nullified.
Absolutely. So potential plays on this turn: Bomb Wrangler, Inner Rage, and then I don't know, Witchy Lackey something, but yeah, all of that just sounds a little bit too fancy in comparison to just getting down the biggest body you can and pray they don't have the answer. And weirdly enough, Kin kind of has the answer in Flick.
Well,
but of course, Flick destroys all copies of a minion anywhere, including the one in his hand.
But he could play the Alexstrasza, get the dragons, and then flick away, and you still have a net gain of a flick and 2 random dragons.
Yeah, it's not bad. There might be something even juicier he can do, though. Like evasive worm?
Okay, that too. Yeah, that of course just deals with the immediate threat on board. Or
Okay,
just do
just going
this
with
and
the
use the
costs.
box
Okay.
for the board buff. Or is it for the 8/8 maybe?
I'd have to
Yeah,
imagine
it
for the
is.
8/8 here.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that the 2/3 might survive. And obviously a bunch of 3 health minions is exactly what Risky Skipper likes to prey on.
True.
Definitely
True.
the 8/8.
No charge on the South Sea deckhand. Obviously, there's a clear on the 8/8, which is very, very important here.
It's hecka expensive.
3 mana. But yes, in terms of resources, it's devastating.
Oh, using the Witchy on a 1-drop feels terrible. Card that feels like it wouldn't be terrible in the deck.
Yeah. Yeah, on turn 2, maybe not at this point. Oi, oi, oi.
Wax a dragon?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you just don't play the Crazed Netherwing right. It makes everything too easy to clear. Yeah, take the trade. I think Kin is just in an almost no-lose scenario here. It would have to be Lackey into Brawl, it feels like. Yeah.
There you go. Tyler chooses death, and now the warrior has finally taken a loss, and honestly was looking so far ahead. It had to be the absolute perfect wand for Kin there to even have a shot.
Yeah, it really did. And it happens every once in a while. You know, if you're playing a lot of series of Hearthstone here in Grandmasters, obviously we only get to see the one on stream so far. But as upset as Tyler seemed to be with that play, justifiably so, I think he's still in a very strong position here. He just needs to win one game against a rogue with his 2 remaining decks of the Highlander Mage from his side. We got to see that do pretty well earlier on today. And the Mirror, his own Highlander Rogue, which is a pretty similar build to the deck, actually. Taking a look at it, no secrets again, instead going with the stealth package, but also cutting the Akama. I wonder if both of these players drew inspiration from the same list. Maybe there's a specific player that's throwing lists around the practice groups that I'm not aware of. But either way, that'll be a very, very similar one. And we've already seen in Mage versus Rogue once today, it going in the Mage's favor.
Yeah, I mean, the more I see the matchup played in GM, the more I start to question whether or not I was just feeling a little too comfortable as a rogue versus mage. Because mage nowadays, they just have a lot of swing potential. Where I feel like any deck that can prey on a dead hand immediately has a good shot against rogue. Because when rogue fails, and of course this is even more intensified by the fact that it's Highlander, it really just does nothing. If you don't draw any of the card draws, these are just a lackey or a 2-drop, and you can quickly die from that spot.
You really can. There's it's a very dynamic matchup because obviously the 2 decks basically existed in their current form in the previous expansion, the previous rotation, sorry, just after Descent of Dragons. And it was a very different matchup, however, because there was the Luna's Pocket Galaxy for Mage, which meant it was an almost unbeatable late game versus the Rogue. But there was also Leroy Jenkins in the Rogue, which meant for huge burst potential that the Mage had very little counterplay against. And now that it's kind of slowed down quite a lot, it really feels like it's actually still stayed about the same, I think you could argue, because there's less burst potential from the Rogue, so it goes later on in the game. But because it goes later on in the game, Mage is more likely to play their threats that they have to play for full mana now, that they don't have Luna's Pocket Galaxy. It's kind of a weird dynamic, but I think it balances out to a pretty dynamic and interesting matchup.
You said a lot of meaningful words there, Derek, but I've just been constantly wowed by the quality of draws from these players. There's just a bunch of Highlander cards already available. I was thinking about, Step the Zephrys. You could use it for backstab here and then do some Edwin stuff, but then he just drew an actual Edwin. And also he generated his own Solarian off of the Dragon's Hoard. A lot of good options for Kin here.
Okay, goes to just using the tempo now.
I feel like this is one of the ones I like the least.
What did you like the most?
Some type of Edwin setup. So it involved saving coin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was too greedy, but just going for something like Zephrys backstab, step the Zephrys,
Right.
and then he could go Zephrys something coin Edwin on the following turn.
Maybe due to the lack of answers, though, with it only really being Arcane Breath, and I guess Ray of Frost as well, he could have gone Zephrys backstab, hold the Shadow Step, and then go for Shadow Step, Zephrys again, and then Edwin, and have an Edwin left in hand. Maybe.
So going for the double EVCs.
Yeah.
I will crush your
Strong.
Well, either way, saving it for a little bit later because he did have decent ways to clear up the Solarian. And this leaves him, Zephrys with Shadow Step in hand, so plenty of options as to how Kin wants to approach this.
But he does have to be wary of finishing with a board that is greater than 10 health because this is approaching Reno territory for Tyler. It should give Animal Companion, still Wild Growth apparently, and Kulturon Shop. I did not expect that one.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay. And it looks like Kin is just going to hold back completely. I like the Wild Growth pick because he has Alexstrasza in hand.
Was it Wild Growth on that turn instead of just playing a 6/6 Edwin? Because you could have just gone Zephyrus Step and then play the Edwin, and then gone for Wild Growth next turn.
But
Which...
the Reno, I mean...
Oh, true, yeah, you're playing into turn 6. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, you know what? I'm on board, I'm on board. The downside is, of course, that it's kind of vulnerable to Dragon Caster plus a big spell. But if that does happen, then obviously you just have the Zephyrus to clear up.
Honestly, with the lander matchups, it's just so hard to pick clearly what you think is the best line, because no matter what Kin does, whether he holds back or develops, there is a punish available to Tyler. You just gotta figure out what you think is most likely in their hand, and that's near impossible to do without perfect information.
Ping pass from Tyler feels absolutely devastating, and with card after card with incredible value coming through for Kin.
Man,
I don't know, this is going to be a close one because Tyler's had a load of really bad turns, but now it's just starting to ramp up again for him.
Oh yeah, and he's now gotten a spell.
Yep.
Combo off with the Dragon Caster. Of course, Seal on her is a very much cleaner answer. But yeah, it just looks like this is going to be a battle of both decks bringing out their highest power level draws, which you like to see. Not too much skewed in one way or the other.
Oh, yes.
So if Zephyrus is played here, does it give Shadow Word Death?
That's what I was looking at.
Oh, Natalie, of course.
Yikes.
But that's so expensive.
Okay, I guess he's happy with Tyrion. I mean, the play I was looking at on that turn was you play the Ooze first, and then you play Zephyrus and hope it offers you Shadow Word Death, and then you play Edwin. Oh no, that was 1 mana off.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was a 0 mana Zephyrus, so it would have been playable, right?
Oh, true. In any case, lines up perfectly into Reno, but Kin gets the Ashbringer for his trouble.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this might have been the losing line actually from Kin. I don't know if he expected to get those options, to be fair, but now he has very little reactivity available, and he's facing down a lot of damage. Forget I said anything. What?
Okay, if the Deathwing hits Tyler's minions first, that is absolutely nuts.
You can just wait for a turn though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can just do this.
Whoa. Okay.
I mean, I am also not sure if Kin expected to see those options, but judging by how quickly he picked the Tyrion, I feel like he did expect to see those. In any case,
powerful
Tyler
plays
now
again though. Khadgar Dragoncaster Deep Freeze for 4 elementals. Wow.
But if you just freeze the Alexstrasza this turn, you're facing down 10 on the opposite side.
That's true. I think the important thing is, though, to just develop as much stats on the board as you possibly can. Even with Reno in hand, you know, you could argue that Tyler should have held back for a turn.
The flick off the top! What
Instead,
is
he
this?
goes in. I loved the play, but there is the uber punish from Kin available off the top. Oh!
Tyler, completely stressed out.
The
for good
poor
reason.
man.
Okay, how does he finish the turn though?
Oh.
Probably a mana saver. Removes everything. Does he even commit? Because now Amazing Reno is a threat.
Yeah, you can just chill, right?
But if he does just go for Reno, then the follow-up for Kin's very strong. He just go Deathwing, unchallenged, and then his choice of Galakrond or other stuff.
Yeah. Maybe that was better. Either way, there's only really one choice here. Could have gone Ping Boom Pistol, but I think it was much too much damage. Much prefer the Reno and see what he's got in the box, what those spells can start conjuring up. Maybe a box.
So is this the Galakrond turn for Kin? I don't know. How many invokes has it been, Derek? Are you the invoke counter between us?
That looks like the 1 version to me.
I wonder.
But has it been... Okay. Has it been 0 invokes or 1 invoke? He's certainly not on the next level, but I wonder if saving the praise galakrond.
I think 0.
Right.
That's my guess.
I'm shocked he didn't play the Deathwing. Is it not good? Just another free 12/12 plus 2/2 stats for the Edwin?
He's clearly afraid of going too all-in into a box, I suppose, but I think given that this is potentially looking a bit scary for Kin, I agree. I would have preferred maximum development.
He's just seen a Reno. I don't know. That's cute.
Very cute. Yeah, now because Kin did go a little bit low on the pressure, it gives all the go-ahead that Tyler needs to throw down the Alexstrasza.
Here's a Zeraku. I could see Reno prompt a Zeraku. He tends to damage himself a lot. Oh, there's the Solarian Prime. That's mage spells.
So
Target
sap
only enemies.
Solarian, just so that you don't damage Reno by accident.
Sure, yeah.
Should
Makes
probably
sense.
start with Sap, I think.
And then if the Solarian sticks, he can rush it into the Alexstrasza.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I
he's
like
thinking.
starting with Sap.
He's thinking, can I greed it and not go for the sap? But this is the risky line of play here. Any damage to Reno itself will summon a 6/6 off of the Zeraku.
It's kind of wild. These are looking pretty low val. Oh, okay, not Reno.
Okay.
Zeraku.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, what?
Whoa! How much damage is that? Is that lethal? That's lethal!
Yeah, with the dagger.
What? What? Oh my god!
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
And I claim it.
That is the most insane thing I've ever seen happen in Hearthstone.
I don't have words. I don't have words. I don't think it's.
How
the most
can you look
insane
that
thing,
calm?
But like. Yeah. You know what? I take it back. Not the Pyroblast to face, but Kin's lack of reaction is the most insane thing I've ever seen in Hearthstone.
Cold-blooded. It had to be exactly Pyroblast, exactly to the face, with the plus spell damage for it to be lethal.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, the Frostball also could have gone face, but that was a lot flashier because it was exactly lethal. And
Wow.
well,
What a
going
time to be
rogue
alive.
mirror now.
Yeah, that'll be a nice, calm one to finish things off with. Nothing surprising will happen there, I'm sure, thankfully. Ha ha ha. As the Rogue Mirror here, the Highlander Rogue Mirror, trying to calm myself, get myself back into the zone. It's pretty similar from both of these players. There's a couple of tech differences that may hurt or help each player. Kobold Sticky Finger, I would say, is a bit of a dud in this matchup. You obviously have the dagger that you can steal from your opponent, but I think you're likely to have your own dagger most of the game. It's only a 1/2 at best. That will probably be hurting Tyler a fair bit, but overall, it's just a fairly standard Rogue Mirror.
Yeah, the only better thing you could hope to steal is the Galakrond claws, but those will hardly ever be getting equipped because these are Highland. They hardly ever get to the full level Galakrond, and that's fine. They just play it for the cycle. And wow, heavy hand for Kin, but if he manages to make it to the late game, that is absolutely powerful. That's for Tyler. The Zephyrus into Wild Growth or maybe Animal Companion.
Yeah, I would
strong.
definitely anticipate Wild Growth if you play Zephyrus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I anticipate Zephyrus as well. I think you generally, if you can, just play it on 2. Fair enough. Doesn't want to give away the value trade. Be curious to see what. I'd be curious to know what he has in his mind, what he's planning to hit off the Zephyrus. Just a piece of removal, I think, is a very valid answer. Maybe a big Edwin.
Or maybe he doesn't want to lock himself into a Wild Growth on 3, onto that specific board. If, say, Kin just backstabs the Zephyrus, goes face with the Spire Mistress, then it makes you not want to play Wild Growth on 3 because you really want to dagger down the Spire Mistress. I might be overthinking. Alakir. That seems like it has potential to just kind of blindside Tyler. Because we're in the mindset now that Leroy is no longer a card. Don't have to play around that much burst. But I could see that getting stuff done.
Oh, all that's missing now for Tyler is the lackey. Well, always lacking
Same for Kin.
with this hand. Yeah, true. I feel like Kin has a little bit more... Oh, sorry. I was going to say I feel like Kin has a little bit more backup that he can go for with his hand. More options, whereas Tyler is a little bit more all in. He does have the Galakrond, of course, but uninvoked. It's a little bit unimpressive.
Right. I was going to ask if Zephyrus gives Cleave here, maybe, to deal with the stealth minion.
I don't think you can even cast Cleave there, actually. Don't there have to be 2 minions?
Didn't they patch that long ago?
Oh, did they? Oh, to be honest, I haven't tried that.
Cleave and multi can also just hit 1 minion now, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right, actually. I think you're right.
Yeah, I could not tell you what Zephyrus is thinking in these situations, but I'm thinking that Kin is looking to be in a very strong spot. The Mana Saver is the wild growth in and of itself, and just have his choice of coining Siamat if he wants to, or just playing the Kronks.
I like the look of Coin Siamat. You can go for double trade here, take out, the SI7 agent, then trade into the Skyver tier, and then go Divine Shield Wind Fury?
For sure. Take the Alpha Siamat.
Oh.
He's ahead on board. Tyler's been floating a ton of mana, lacking his own development, and the Kobold is a dud, as you said, but he rather would go for the Kronks. Sap on Kronks? So that's a very high tempo play, but that gives Kin value.
Well, it does, but I think the thinking is Tyler, if he's going to have any chance at all, has to win the board, and he has to activate his Miscreant on this turn. It's either that or Zephyrus, and he's clearly got something better in mind for Zephyrus. He's got great expectations.
I mean, I was looking at Zephyrus every single turn since turn 2.
Right.
And he's just held it in hand, so clearly he knows something we don't. And I hope we get to find out what that is. But Kin, I think, rightly recognizes that with the Kronks back in hand and hardly under any pressure on the opposite side, now it is at a time as ever to get the old Galley Boy.
Wow, that is a fantastic card to draw off of the Galakrond there. Given how expensive his hand is, I was expecting, a Pharaoh Cat or something cheap like that. This is the dream.
It absolutely is. Obviously, the Plague can deal with Edmund, but it's painful.
Well, the weird thing is he could go Plague Kobold to just give himself a Plague of Madness. Maybe that was actually just the play, It's not bad.
It's cute.
It's cute, at the very least.
Yeah. But I do think that he needs something better than that to get back on board. The Wondrous One is maybe
very
his
fair.
only ticket out of this.
Well, he's got Zephyrus, so if
Shadow
anything is
Ruin.
super wrong here... Yep, Shadow Ruin, exactly. Can't go for it now, of course, but he should, on average, I think, find something to dig him out of this.
For both of them?
Yikes.
I'm not sure if that's the
Yeah,
average.
maybe not for both.
Given that he's got Gala and Kronks in hand, I'm not actually sure.
Well, he could go Zephyrus into, Shadow of Death or something, whatever it offers him here, right? And then that activates Vendetta.
Okay.
So he could clear off that way, because it also activates the Underbelly.
Right, with the correct order. Or he could even just praise Galakrond.
Right,
just
that
do
sounds even better.
Do everything.
It works out just fine for him.
Okay.
How much is this worth to you?
Now the real game kind of begins, because Kin is not actually able to play the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza yet. He could go for a slow play of just praising, lackeying, and togging, but that seems quite weak. I expect to see an answering Kronks on the other side, and that maybe gives Tyler to his own Galakrond.
Right.
Yeah, Tyler, of course, knows that the Kronks is in hand, so he doesn't commit the Bone Wraith as well. And this is what I find really fun about the rogue mirrors. They do swing back and forth quite often. It's really not over till it is over.
I think that Kin has done a fantastic job of giving himself the highest swing potential this game. Like, for example, going for coin into Galakrond instead of coin Tiamat, despite that was, on average, the higher tempo play, set him up for the Kronks. He was rewarded anyway with the Edwin, but I think it shows good understanding of, like you said, the swinginess of the matchup and needing to prepare to respond.
Speaking of swing potential, though, I was looking at Galakrond that turn for Tyler, but with the draw... Oh, Gyrocopter! I guess not that good here. Yeah, given that he drew another Invoke and now gets to put Galakrond onto his second form, I think holding back is also wise. But this Alexstrasza could be absolutely backbreaking. Deathwing
Oi,
and
oi, oi.
another Zeraku? There's more Zerakus I've ever seen. Okay, now Tyler doesn't have the time to play Galakrond, does he? With no other options.
Yeah, no more Zephyrus, no more Kronks. I'm not seeing it, to be honest. Flick is maybe his best out here to take out Zeraku. But even then, it's just too much pressure, it feels like. Faceless Corruptor is good. For sure, just to be able to clean some of this up.
Murazond?
Murazond is fantastic. You
But
definitely take that. I don't think you even consider the other two. It's probably not going to work, but I think it's the only chance.
Right. So the most Tyler can clear off is the 7-4 and the 8-8.
Oh my god, Gia, imagine. Next turn Deathwing into Murazond Deathwing. Oh wait, it wouldn't even clear, no battle cries. Still be cool.
But it's just funny to look at. So I expect at the end of this... Okay, so he's going to clear Zeraku instead.
He can clear both. Zeraku, I mean, should have attacked face first, but not a big deal.
I was looking at getting rid of the most damage
Oh,
on
sorry,
the board.
sorry, I understand.
Right. So now Kin has 14. He's got Alakir for 20. Got Eviscerate for 24. A little bit short.
14, 20, 24. Yep, I agree. Very, very close, all things considered, though. So does he just play the Alakir anyway? Because it's kind of the biggest thing he can develop and gets the damage face?
Well, I'm looking at the Lackey and Tog
Sure.
now with the full mana.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. Wand or Crown? I feel like this is a spot where the Crown just puts him in an unlosable position
Sure,
from
yeah.
his point of view.
He's got more than enough on board already.
Team Deferis. I mean, okay.
I mean, he's holding out, I think, in case it was Deathwing off of the
Sure.
Treasure Hoard, Dragon's Hoard. Yeah.
So now it's got to be Backstab Kronks. And then Kin just has the responding lethal unless this faceless lackey gets a taunt.
Or 3 damage rush. I don't think that exists. Yeah, okay.
And there you go. With the Alakir Eviscerate, Kin completes reverse sweep.
Oh my god. I did not see this happening in a million years. And
Me neither.
while usually I take this time to congratulate the victor, and I will, I've got to say, I feel so bad for Tyler this series. He got... I mean, I can't say it, but it didn't work out for him. This was not a good series in terms of the
definitely-
possible outcomes that could happen.
This rogue game, I think, a lot of problems to Kin. He definitely saw all the
Yes,
lanes.
yeah, for sure.
Nothing too terrible happened on Tyler's end. But that Mage game, I'm going to say it if you won't. Tyler got scammed. Scammed, Dara.
Yes.
Pyroblastic Phase is a scam.
Well, I mean, I was going to say a different word, but that sums it up, I think, pretty well there. And like you said, this is a no skin off Kin's nose at all. I think he played fantastically well, put himself in the opportunities to win all these games. But, I mean, man, that Rogue versus Mage game, what can you even say there if you're Tyler? It was truly devastating. He's not out, however, though. It does mean he is going down to the losers bracket to face off against Staz in just a couple of games' time. But now for Kin, this is looking pretty good for him. His second top 8 in a row in his first couple of weeks in Grandmasters, full stop. 1 game away now from going through to the top 4, which would put him in a very, very strong position indeed to finish in Division A as opposed to Division B.
That's right. He will be facing off against Flurry, and that's going to be a really, really fun one to see. I just think that Flurry's lineup, we didn't get to see it shine all that much because in last year's standing, he didn't actually have to win with every deck, but I'm curious to see how that Dragon Hunter from Flurry will pan out against what Kin's brought. But if Kin's quality of wands and generation skills is any indication, I think that Kin definitely is in with a shot.
He's in with a real shot. But let's see how it looks in a visual format with the the bracket here that we have available. Staz versus Tyler down in the elimination match. That is going to be a good one indeed. We saw some very strong play from both the players, I believe. And there's always that usual little Staz spiciness that you can expect whenever you see him play. Flurry versus Kin, though, at the top. I've got to be honest, I think that neither of them were very flashy in their play. In terms of the choices they made. Obviously, Kin's wins were quite flashy. But I think they just both played very, very solid Hearthstone. There were few things I could pick up on from either player.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'd like to see that there's a lot of polish on their end, and I would like to see also that, I guess, the orange just kind of balance out on both ends for this time, because Flurry also has a mage, and so there's scam potential on both sides, I suppose. And Staz versus Tyler, I'm also looking forward to that one, although I'd be sad to see either of those players get knocked out.
Me too. I don't know. Tyler, given that he's a streamer, it's one of those weird dynamics where I like him a lot. I really want to see him succeed. Kind of enjoy watching him lose at the same time, though. You just want to see your streamers suffer a little bit for all the free entertainment they provide you. Doesn't make sense, but I want it anyway.
I am not going to say anything about that. Do not include me in that narrative.
Fair enough. Tyler knows I love him. But either way, that is all wrapped up for our first 2 matches of the day. Next up, we are going to have Kin versus Flurry for our top bracket match. And then afterwards, it is going to be down at the bottom, Staz versus Tyler, which we were just talking about, the loser of which will be out for this week. But I believe, first of all, we are going to give Kin a chance to get ready for his match versus Flurry, given I think anyone would need a moment to recover after that reverse sweep versus Tyler. So we'll be right back with our winners match right